There's been a steady decline in people who have kids or want to have kids for decades. A study showed that 55% of Gen Z and millennials between the ages of 18 to 34 want to have kids. The number 55% is very low compared to the prevalence of people who had kids in the past. It was for sure higher than 55%. And perhaps not all of them had kids because they wanted to. Today it's different. If people say they don't want to have kids, they most likely won't. 1 in 4 of the people surveyed don't want to have kids at all. The rest are undecided or not sure. Whether or not to have children is a deeply personal choice. No one can make that choice for you because each person's circumstances are different. However, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, there are a lot of common reasons why people don't want to have kids. The number one reason why people don't want to have kids among those surveyed is that they want more time for themselves. Other common reasons why people don't want to have kids include the following: no desire to have kids, don't want their career to suffer, environment, don't want the relationship to suffer, state of the world, cost, health or medical reasons, freedom, pain, and more. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why young people today no longer want to have kids, its impact on our world, and what we should do about it. Before we go further, let me just read out some of the things I found online regarding what it's like to have kids. My son stuck a snail in his nose when he was 2. We took him to hospital and they used pharmaceutical blank to shrink his sinuses and a doctor blew it out. We took him home and he rode on his rocking horse for 2 hours non-stop. Today I found out my 7-year-old daughter really did lie about my husband's other girlfriend as revenge for being grounded, and that he never cheated on me at all. We are well into our divorce proceedings and he won't forgive me for not believing him when he denied it. My 4-year-old said he was carsick, so I dumped the groceries from a plastic bag and passed it back to him with instructions to throw up inside it. I heard him throw up and looked back to see that he'd put the bag over his head like a helmet, so the puke fell right out the bottom.
The worst thing about having children in your mid to late 30s is when you've spent 20 minutes trying to get your baby to sleep, and then they're asleep in their cot, and as you go to leave the room, the clicking of your joints wakes them up. My baby just woke up because my knee clicked.
What's up?
Go away.
Mommy, can we have ice cream?
Okay, sure. Let me get it ready.
One, two.
Dinks or dual income no kids are couples who both make money but don't want to have kids and don't have kids. It's a conscious choice that couples make to not have kids due to a myriad of reasons. We're seeing a rise in dinks. Apparently, it's never been a better time to be a dink. Couples use the money that they would have spent on kids to fuel their spontaneous dates and exotic vacations. They also don't have to worry about their retirement because they have a lot more money to spare without kids. The rise of dinks is in response to the cost of raising kids, often cited as the number one reason why people don't want to have kids. Depending on the source you look at, you can argue that if you aren't financially stable enough, you shouldn't bring kids into the world to suffer with you, and I wholeheartedly agree. I don't want to offend anyone, but there have been many times growing up when I'd seen ads on TV of children suffering in third world countries, of a mother holding one of her many malnourished children, crying her heart out, asking you to donate $1 to save a life. Well, it's heartwarming that people all over the world care enough about the issue to open up their wallets. It often made me wonder why these desperate parents keep having kids, knowing they can't afford to feed them. Why do they keep bringing children into this world, knowing their children will suffer the same fate as them and their other children? Maybe they don't have access to birth control. That's a valid reason. Here where we live, in first world countries, we have choices. We aren't forced to marry or give birth. People are smart enough and disciplined enough to understand what will happen if they have kids while they're already struggling to feed themselves, which sadly is not an uncommon sight. In the US, 44 million people are food insecure, including 1 in 5 children, or 13 million children in total. In 2022, 49 million people turned to food assistance programs for help. The number has only been rising. Aside from food insecurity, half of US renters are cost-burdened. Those paying 30% or more of their income in rent and utility are cost-burdened. A lot of the cost-burdened people are paying over 50% of their income to rent. They spend the majority of their time working to pay for a place they're never at because they're so busy exchanging nearly every hour of their lives for money. How would these people be able to afford kids on top of it all? Some people have seen their rent rise $500 in 1 month without too much warning, from paying $1,300 a month to all of a sudden $1,800. Seeing that can give anyone a heart attack.
This is the first month I won't be able to afford rent. I'm not a rich person. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have basic household necessities, a couch, a bed, washer, a dryer. That's about it. A car. I don't have a lot of lavish things. I don't go on vacations and I don't spend a lot. Rent's increased from $1,300 to $1,800. The food prices are too high. I've cut back on eating because I literally cannot afford food. I've cut back on my favorite snacks, cat food, treats. I'm exhausted all the time from being overworked and underpaid. I'm trying so hard and I feel like I'm not doing enough. I don't have family. I don't have anything to fall back on.
If you don't have kids, you can live in a hotel for a while until you find a cheaper room to rent. But if you have kids, it will be a whole other issue. Their bus drop-off and pick-up spots will have to suddenly change. Their school performance may be impacted because now they don't have their own rooms to do their homework. How do you organize a move when you got kids yelling for you to wipe their butts and clean up their pukes every 5 minutes? Then we got the environmental reasons. Growing up, I was always told that overpopulation was an issue, that we are having too many kids, that there are too many people on this planet, and the environment can't handle it. On average, one person produces 19 tons of greenhouse gases each year. That's a lot of greenhouse gases, which with increasing global temperature, we are seeing changes to seasons. Last year, there was no snow on Christmas. Winter is apparently arriving later than usual. It's also not as cold as it used to be. As a person who really does not do well in cold weather, I don't mind it too much. But I do feel sad that soon, snow in December during Christmas holidays will be a thing of the past. So that's another reason why some people don't want to have kids. There are enough kids in the world. They will rather adopt than add one more carbon footprint to the planet. And then we have the potential World War III that may happen. Bad things happen in wars, very bad things. Just look at Ukraine and Palestine. The elites tell the people to fight, and it's the people who must die for the elites. The politicians and the very rich who pushed for wars, they and their kids will be fine. They'll be chilling in their bunkers with self-sustaining food, indoor gym, swimming pool, and jacuzzi, getting richer and richer by the second. Somebody gotta make end profits from selling those weapons. Somebody need to rebuild society when things are over. We are merely pawns. And some people don't want their offspring to participate in a game that's rigged against them from the start. They don't want to make more pawns for the elite. And if that's not the reason, people just don't want their children to suffer the consequences of wars. One of the most common comments I've seen posted on the videos of people talking about why they don't want kids when I'm researching this video is, but who will take care of you when you're old? Let's address that. Nursing homes are filled with people who have kids, but they rarely, if ever, get any visitors. Having kids doesn't guarantee that you will have someone to take care of you when you're old. That's a selfish reason to have kids as well. Some people have kids because they expect their kids to take care of them in old age and be an emergency retirement plan for them. All I can say is, you can't force your children to take care of you. Maybe they will struggle to feed themselves and their own families. How will they even be able to help you? If they so happen to move to different places from where you live, you can't expect them to visit you often.
I don't think anyone in the history of the world who's ever been pregnant with a child has said, I want to get pregnant so that I have a caretaker when I'm 80. So I have a friend who's a palliative care nurse, and she says that hands down the most lonely people in the palliative care ward are parents. Typically, the most lonely elderly people in her palliative care ward are parents who have really strained relationships with their kids. Others have great relationships with their kids, but the kids just don't visit anyways, and they wonder what they've done wrong. Recently, one of the most well-loved people in her palliative care ward is an elderly child-free woman. She has tons of friends visiting her all of the time and just loves her life. Her husband's at the palliative care ward with her and treats her like a gem.
When I was in high school, I worked in a nursing home and people died all the time. It was actually a very morbid place to work as a high schooler, but we actually had the most deaths on Christmas Day every single year. Like, hands down, it was a thing. It was so weird that I looked it up, and it actually is a fact that more people die between Christmas and New Year's, especially the elderly people, from natural causes too. Anyway, out of all the residents that I helped because I worked in dietary, the people that were the loneliest, the meanest, and pretty much the worst to work with were the people who had kids. Not only did they have kids, but their kids dropped them off and never came back. They didn't visit for the holidays, didn't visit for their birthdays, didn't visit for anything. But the people in the residential home that actually made friends, they were like the happiest people I'd ever met. So the idea that people should have kids to have a long-term care plan is just ridiculous. Because statistically speaking, if you have a strained relationship with your child, they will leave you in a nursing home.
There are way too many variables that you can't account for when you have kids for the purpose of having someone to take care of you in old age. The current cost to raising a kid to adulthood is $237,482. If you really worry about who will take care of you in old age, putting that money to work in investment accounts will be a more secure bet than betting on your kids to not only want to care for you in old age, but also be able to financially. About half the young adults aged 18 to 29 live at home with their parents, so the total financial contribution to having a child may be even higher in the end. That coincidentally is also another reason why Gen Z are not having kids. Millennials and Gen Z adults are still living at home with their parents. When you live at home with your parents, there are fewer opportunities to start and maintain a relationship. There's no space to bring them in privately without your parents knowing. In America, the median age for marriage has risen to 30.2 for men in 2023 and 28.4 for women. The fact that if you're at the bottom 75% of income earners, you won't be able to afford an apartment is another problem in itself. Old people rely on the equity they build on their homes for a big part of their retirement. Young people can't afford to buy a house, can't afford to move out and date, can't afford to have a wedding, can't afford to raise a family, can't afford to retire. Why would they bring children into this world and subject them to the same fate? When your life is only work, pay bills, and barely have anything left to spend on non-essentials, there's no happiness in life. There's nothing in life to look forward to. It was fun knowing that you get to study hard, move out, go to a good college, enjoy your youth, travel, get a good job, buy a house, raise a family, and retire with decades to spend. Now young people can't do any of it. Why would they want to have kids? So they can be driven deeper into debt. Social media has also opened the curtain to the reality of marriage and kids to young people. As kids, we were only ever shown the fairy tale version of marriage and kids. We don't see the turmoil, struggle, and sacrifices as much. As people share more and more of what it's like, the regrets they have regarding children, it's made what was unspeakable and stigmatized less so.
Imagine you had the option to sign up for the most fulfilling yet most traumatizing video game ever. But once you start playing it, you can never stop. So here's this video game called Having Kids. As soon as you hit play, nothing will fulfill you as much as that. When you see, for example, your child, like it feels sometimes like your heart will explode and you will never experience such joy. Like you're like, whoa, how is this possible? But on the flip side, you will get traumatized and tortured like crazy and triggered like crazy. You will confront your inner demons and it will be terrible. It's give and take. You can never stop playing it until you die. Here's the kicker. You can choose a player too. Who are you going to handcuff yourself to go through this amazing, rewarding, and terrible game until you die? That's marriage and kids.
There's a subreddit called Regrets for Parents with 118,000 members, full of stories of parents regretting having children. About 5 to 14% of parents regret having children. Some sources said 10%. That's still a high number. It's not easy to get parents to admit that, so the actual number may be even higher. One thing we consistently see is moms regretting having children because they didn't realize how unequal the domestic labor is going to be in a home.
What is something that you'll get a lot of hate for if you say it out loud?
That a lot of parents out there regret having kids. A lot of women have been sold on the idea that being a mother is everything and that if you don't have kids, then what good are you? And then once they have kids, it's not all flowers and roses like they've been told. Nobody tells the truth about the real costs of having kids. Babies are born sick and they have ailments. Partners can't handle it and they bail. And then it's a great disappointment that the child grows up to be something totally different than the idea that you have in your head. So if you're considering having kids, think long and hard because having a child is a lifelong commitment. It doesn't end when the kid turns 18. It lasts a lifetime.
Right as we were leaving, Hunter got into the pantry and just ripped open a bag of flour.
Oh, no.
It took like an hour to clean up, which was frustrating because I had just cleaned, but we still love them.
Yeah, well, kids will be kids, I guess.
It's what we signed up for. But it's the best thing we've ever done. Absolutely love them. More than anything.
I think it's really important to talk about the fact that regretful parents exist. So here's just some snippets from the sub. I didn't think I'd get PPD this bad. Even though my baby is only 10 months old, not a day goes by where I don't want to disappear or hurt myself. I'm in therapy and on medication, but I don't think I'll ever be myself again. I'm just an empty shell. Being called mama irritates the soul out of me. My child is 6 and I wish I understood that my PPD was a sign to adopt him out. Now it's too late for me. The bad feelings never went away. I can't do this. I wasn't cut out for this. I feel like I'm pouring all of myself into a bottomless pit that gives thanks by screaming furiously at me. I didn't want to keep him, but my partner's parents convinced me to. Any breaks I get from my son, I spend dreading when I'll have to take him back. If my kids were not my kids, I would cross the road to avoid them. I have nothing left to give. I can't stand my 14-year-old. I wish she was never born. I hate being her mom. I hate coming home every day to her. I don't know how to accept this is my life now without wishing every day I hadn't ruined it with a baby. I'm just alone with this terrible toddler, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering how I could have messed up my life so much. A year into motherhood, I go to bed every single night dreading the next day. Never in a million years would I have guessed I could be this unhappy. There hasn't been a single day in an entire year that I've enjoyed. I yearn for the life I used to have. I miss it so much it hurts.
Well, I think everyone should have the freedom to choose whether they want to have kids and not be forced into parenthood. There are valid reasons for concerns if not enough people are having kids. The pension system is made up of working people paying into the system to support the current retirees. If not enough children are born, the system will collapse, as not enough money will be paid into the pension system. It's a population crisis that notable figures such as Elon Musk have raised. To help combat this problem, Musk has donated $10 million for fertility research. The problem is that by the time most people are financially stable enough to have kids, many face fertility issues. Fertility research aims to solve this problem. While some scientists are working hard on solving the fertility crisis, there are people who think a declining birth rate is not necessarily a bad thing. In the past, people had more kids because children were assets. They could help work the fields. More children equal more working hands. Later, when society became more advanced, these people were hired to work in factories. There were plenty of jobs for them until machines took over some people's jobs and they were forced into other fields. I never thought it would progress this fast, but in just the past few years, the pace at which AI has advanced has shocked the world. First, there are now AI to do the jobs of cashiers, truck drivers, janitors, chefs.
The name of an AI restaurant is already cooking. There's a grill robot by Kachina, and Flippy by Miso Robotics frying everything else. No human chefs needed.
Artist. And honestly, AI can even diagnose people now. Would we even need doctors in the future when AI can diagnose diseases more accurately and perform surgeries more precisely? There will be less need for workers as AI advances further. We are already seeing a lack of jobs in all sectors, so the worry that there won't be enough workers to do the jobs would probably not be true. Instead, what we may see is a shift in power into people's hands if not enough children get born. there should be jobs that still need humans in the future. We'll always need humans to help steer AI in the right direction. If we give AI total control of how their kind progresses, we're only asking to be terminated. So there will be jobs for humans, tasked with coding AI, maintaining AI, and building fail-safes. With fewer people around, people may be able to negotiate a higher pay. This is what happened in the Middle Ages, when the plague killed off so many people that the remaining peasants had more negotiating power. They got better pay, better living conditions, and were able to lift their lineage out of poverty. Here's where things are going. It's unlikely that we could solve the issue of not enough people wanting to have kids overnight. And while this will inevitably lead to some troubles down the road, there are silver linings to look forward to. What we can do now is to make sure that people who do want to have kids get the supports they need. This could mean giving parents financial help in the form of free daycare or childcare subsidy. We can tax the rich more and distribute the wealth to people who are willing to contribute their time and youth to raising the next generation. Without these parents, society wouldn't be able to function. In other words, this problem isn't unmediable. There are still people who want to have kids. We just need to make sure we give them the resources to push them in that direction. Ultimately, child-free people should be left alone in their choices. Let's not forcefully change their minds. We don't need a real-life rendition of Handmaid's Tale, because every child deserves parents who truly want them in the first place.